Welcome back to another edition of the best division in football with your boys Authentic and The Beard. The best television show that is not on TV, and I think it is going to remain like that. You know, the way my bank account is set up, we're not trying to have nobody be no middleman for Authentic and The Beard, so that is the vibes. We got a great week 2 slate here in the NFC East. Another divisional matchup for the New York Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. This is a must-win game for both of these teams who lost their week 1 matchup. You got the Washington Commanders traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers and my doppelganger at the quarterback position, Jordan Love himself. And you got the Philadelphia Eagles along with the Kansas City Chiefs that are going to be headed for another battle of a Super Bowl rematch. It is absolutely going to be a fantastic week of football. I'm definitely excited about it. It already feels like the season is kind of progressing along just a little bit too fast for my liking here. It felt like we were just in the preseason getting ready for the season, and here we are already entering week 2. Now, let me tell y'all something about teams that win in week 1 and teams that lose in week 1 that I think is extremely important for the trajectory of the way that the NFC East is going to shape out this year. Since 1990, history has shown that teams that are victorious in their season openers are more than twice as likely to advance to the playoffs as teams that lose their opener. During that span, 54.2% of teams to win their opener have advanced to the playoffs, including both of last year's Super Bowl participants. So that week 1 matchup that a lot of people like to say, especially in New York Giants land, I've been hearing it a ton, that, oh, it's just one game. Well, that one game is an extremely important game. So we got to go off in here into week 2, try to get a W. It's definitely going to be a tall task. I'm going to see if my co-host can maybe convince me. I know he's sometimes labeled as a Cowboys hater himself, so I'm hoping that possibly that hate can maybe somehow influence me into thinking that my New York Giants can win this week 2 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. We shall see. But without further ado, let me bring in the best co-host in the country. My brother from another. Y'all know what it is. Big shout out to my Dukes one time, man. Miss Kelly in the building. Y'all know what it is. My brother from another, the Beard, is here to represent those Washington Commanders. Beard, how we living? How we feeling after that week 1 victory? Even though it was a little bit ugly here, but how we feeling about that week 1 victory against my New York Giants?
Oh, it was fantastic. You know, like you said, week 1 win, and we talked about it in the week 1 preview show that was a kind of a must win for both teams, right? Like, we couldn't go out there and lose to the New York Giants. And like now it's like, after the game, it's easy to look in hindsight and be like, well, man, it would have been really bad if we lost to the New York Giants. You know, but
I don't like where this is headed already, bro.
Good. I got to watch it. Shout out Monique. She's in the chat. Monique was
notifications on, gang.
Yeah,
Shout out to Monique.
On. Monique was next to me watching the game, so that was good. You know, I got some Dallas Cowboys on the couch there. Got to watch the Washington Commanders in the live in the flesh. So yeah, it was good. You know, and this is the thing. It's like week 1, especially with the Commander situation. They didn't have a lot of guys playing in the preseason. You know, there's some obvious rust and things of that nature there for Washington, and we'll talk about that briefly as the show progresses. But it felt good. It felt good to see your team as a whole on the field at home. I feel like week 1 home games are so clutch, right? Like, it's just a good way to get your season started. And obviously, you know, there was some moments in there that was, you know, that you didn't want to see, but
let me ask you something real quick. Which performance do you think was more sketchy? The one last year where you had the 6 trips into the red zone and only came away with a bunch of field goals? Or do you think that this one with the penalties, I think you guys had 10 penalties for 82 yards maybe, you think this one was a little bit more sketchy as far as the way that you guys, you know, trucked along to your victory?
Last year was definitely more sketchy.
Yeah.
You know, this was a little bit more, I think you could say, was rust oriented. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was some miscommunication, some overthrows, some drop balls, and the penalties, of course. I think it was a total of 11 penalties. The first down penalties just in itself was really bad. I'm sure you saw the stat floating around Twitter of how the Giants defense performed on the second and longs versus Washington. So like, we got lucky in that sense that we were able to, bounce back after all those first down penalties. But
I don't call that luck though. I call that, JD5. That's what I call
well,
that.
yeah, I mean, listen,
second and 17, sure.
I'm trying to be a little humble here, okay? I don't want to. We're disbelievers, Dallas disbelievers. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, there's no haters.
Daniels is like MacGyver back there. He's like, oh, we got a piece of toast and a slice of cheese. Oh, y'all need a large pizza? I got you, no problem. Bam, out there getting to it.
It's a cheat code.
It is. It really is.
By the way, did you see Caleb Williams try to implement the little Jaden Daniels goat gallop?
I did not see that, but I liked his performance. I thought he was a little bit inaccurate at times, but from Caleb Williams, from what I saw from a pocket presence standpoint, that kid definitely night and day from what we saw last season, holding on to the ball way too long last year, and this year it seems to, have gotten his feet wet, and I feel like he's in his best shape right now. Like some of those jukes he was making while escaping and buying time and being elusive, I love seeing that from him, and kind of doing an impersonation of your quarterback for sure.
Yeah, the first drive was really good for him. I thought that there was because this class is going to be under a microscope. It's like that now for second-year quarterbacks, right? Like the sophomore slump. Okay, like even though CJ Stroud didn't have a bad year last year, everybody wants to use that as an example of what's going to happen to Jaden Daniels this year, right? But like, let's be serious. CJ Stroud didn't have a bad year. It's not like he threw 20 interceptions. Right. They made the playoffs.
Same thing happened with Caleb Williams' year last year. When you look at it from just a box score standpoint, it wasn't that bad. But people make it seem like he's this terrible quarterback. I've been seeing the comparisons to Mitchell Trubisky and the statistics and how he started. But people forget that Mitchell Trubisky had a really good start to his career, especially from a winning percentage standpoint. So I'm rooting for all these kids, man. I want to see good quarterback play in the NFL. There's nothing like seeing lackluster quarterback play and teams not scoring points. And I just hope somehow that can influence my team to get out there and score some more points on Sunday. I mean, we'll see, though.
Yeah, I mean, there was some rough moments in that game. So this is the first time we've beat you guys 3 straight games in how many years? Do you know? Was it 25 years?
I'm not too sure.
25 years, I believe, since
25 years.
Yeah, 25 years since we beat you guys 3 times in a row. But
I wish I knew where my bumble clot sound effect was right. There you go.
There was some interesting numbers as far as that goes. I think that was the lowest amount of points we allowed a team to score since Sam Howell's first start, which was Week 18, 2022.
Against the Cowboys. I remember that game, and Dak Prescott shit the bed that game.
Yeah, and now here we are. This is the other thing too. Like, we're Deion Sanders now. We're prime time. We are team prime time. We got
six of those this year.
Team prime time in the building. We're ready. We're at Lambeau. The Green Bay got the all whites rocking tonight. So
it's gonna be a beautiful thing, man. As I say, man, enjoy it while you can, because you never know how long it's gonna last. So that you got this quarterback out there playing that well, you definitely got to enjoy it while you can. And for New York Giants fans, that seemed to be just 3 preseason games. And once we got to Week 1, all of that hope and all of that faith kind of got deflated going into this week. But definitely excited to talk about these matchups. We're gonna start with the New York Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys. We got the Commanders game on deck, so all the Commanders fans definitely stick around. But let's get off into this first one and talk about the New York Giants traveling to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys.
They have, statistically, I think the hardest schedule.
I like the team. I like the chemistry. I like the leadership. We had a good training camp. We had a good spring. Now we're 2 weeks away. We have to go out and do it.
Gallops off the right side. Corner across the field. To the 40. To the 30.
We have another fucking opportunity. Put that in the line. That's on me. That's on me. 1, 2, 3 times.
Middle wide open. Slate runs out of the tackle at the 10. The 5. He's in for the touchdown.
All right, let's get off into this preview here, man. Let's start this one off proper here, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Spike don't play with girls. Spike don't care, all right? We going to Dallas. We're taking on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. It's been a little bit of a good little length here since we've had a chance to see the Dallas Cowboys. Both teams coming into this matchup at 0-1. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's, normally my spot where I like to see my team play, especially during the former quarterbacks era here with the New York Giants. The over-under is 44.5. Cowboys favored by 5.5. Last week, Giants lost to the Commanders 21-6. Cowboys lost to the Eagles 24-20. Very close game. I thought the Dallas Cowboys offense came out, played pretty well. Last meeting, the Cowboys beat the Giants 27-20 in late November of 2024. That was without Dak Prescott. Both of the games last year were without Dak Prescott. Brian Dable's entering Sunday's matchup with an 8-game losing streak in the NFC East, and we got to find a way to snap that losing streak. This is a must-win for both of these teams, sitting at 0-2. The Giants have beat the Cowboys. These numbers are really going to be disheartening. I apologize to all the Giants fans out there in the chat. The Giants have beat the Cowboys just one time since 2017, and Dak Prescott is 13-2 in his career versus the New York Giants, has not lost to the Giants since his rookie season. I feel like we've been saying this for every preview where the New York Giants play the Dallas Cowboys over the past couple of years. The Cowboys have won 15 of the last 16 matchups versus the New York Giants, and the Cowboys have scored over 25 points in 10 of the last 15 matchups. You think that's something? They've scored over 30 points in 8 of the last 15 wins. So this is definitely a game where I'm not feeling that comfortable going into it, especially with Dak Prescott at the quarterback position. I think this week's game plan starts with forgetting about last week's game plan. Last week's game plan was absolutely terrible. The Giants offense scored 3 points in each half, 9 drives, 6 punts, 3 3-and-outs, 96 total yards at the half, 3.7 yards per pass, 3.2 yards per carry. Did not have a single successful attempt in the red zone. They were 0 for 2. They allowed 432 total yards. This defense that is being touted as a top 5 front only had 5 total quarterback hurries on the day, 0 quarterback hits. They did get to the quarterback 4 times. I thought a lot of that was on Jaden Daniels just holding the ball too long. But today's, just emphasis on supporting Russell Wilson, this is one of the most important things going into this matchup against the Dallas Cowboys here. And I think it starts with Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. You got to be more creative. And you got to find ways to move the pocket for Russell Wilson to be able to buy him more time. And when I say to be more creative, I'm not talking about halfback passes and doing dumb shit like throwing the ball to the left tackle when we get down into the red zone. I'm just talking about being more creative, more pre-snap motion, more up-tempo offense. Be creative with pushing the ball down the field. Utilize the speed of Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt for more than clear outs. We put together the compilation of Darius Slayton routes on the channel, and it's just embarrassing. Like half of those routes, he's just half-assing down the field and just trying to find a way to just draw some attention from the safety, but really not running a route and being a viable option within the progression for the quarterback. So that's just not going to be the way. Game plan's kind of the same here as it was last week against the Commanders. RTDB, which is run the damn ball, and STDR, which is Beard, stop
the damn run.
Run. That's exactly what it's all about. Giants allowed 220 rushing yards last week to the Commanders. Not a good look. Beard was talking about this with me before we got on air. It was second worst in the NFL. Buffalo played Derrick Henry. They had the worst rush defense in the league. Not an excuse for the Giants at all. Javonte Williams, man, had him in fantasy. We got him in one of our leagues. He's coming off a pretty decent game. 15 rushes, 54 yards. The 2 touchdowns, super clutch. The Cowboys rushed for 119 yards versus the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Granted, they were missing Jalen Carter, but that's still definitely an accomplishment. Miles Sanders added 53 yards on 4 carries. What's your thoughts about the newly revamped Dallas Cowboys rushing attack here?
Listen, this is the thing that's crazy. It's new, right? It's refreshing. I'm a big Javonte Williams guy, have been, if you guys have been watching us for, since he's been in the league, right? But the one thing that didn't feel new was the Cowboys getting away from the running game too early again, right? And I mean, that game was really weird too because the weather delay, right? But I really thought Javonte Williams looked good running the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Miles Sanders is a good change of pace back. Had the huge play in that matchup against the Eagles, but then also had the turnover in the red zone, which was detrimental in that game, right?
Could have been what cost them the game. That's facts.
Yes. And so they have to find a way to be balanced, I think. Like in this game, it's going to be interesting because you're going up against the New York Giants run defense, which just allowed all those rushing yards to the Washington Commanders. It's going to be important for Dallas to be able to establish the run, right? Sometimes these coaches, we talk about this a lot, these coaches get they overthink things, right? If you're going up against a really bad run defense, albeit we're going off of 1 week of statistics, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. But it's not like the Commanders have Derrick Henry. They had a combination of Austin Eckler, Jaden Daniels, a couple runs from McNichols, and our guy Bill. who won, by the way, Pepsi Rookie of the Week, which is just it's a Commanders award at this point because Commanders fans are just obsessed with that. But, and most of those runs came in the back end of the game too.
Yeah.
So I do think that they have an advantage here to be able to run the ball. And if they want to be able to produce offensively by passing the ball, they're going to have to be able to establish the run. And I think that Dak looks good, in my opinion. The Cowboys offense as a whole looked better than I had anticipated. I think a lot of that had to do, though, with them being able to establish the run early. Now, I don't know how much of that game plan was initially there and how much of that they pivoted to once they realized Jalen Carter was out of the game, right? Because that's something that we probably won't know. But I think that if that was their initial game plan, like we're going to attack one of the best defensive lines in football, based off of last year, overall defense in general, we're going to go out and we're going to attack them, then that's, I think, the mentality that Dallas needs to have in this game, and they should have in all their games.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for both of these teams, it's going to be important to establish the run. You talked about the Dallas Cowboys there and maybe the game plan kind of pivoting a little bit with Jalen Carter coming out, but I do think that a lot of teams like to script the way that they start their game, at least for the first drive, sometimes even into the second drive. And I think, Dallas over the years has been a team that commits to that run even when it's not really working. We saw that early on last year, and this is Brian Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys last year. But for the Giants, on the flip side of things, they have to find a way to run the ball. Not only do they have to find a way to run the ball, I think they have to win the battle of running the ball in this game. Like, we need to rush for more yards than the Dallas Cowboys do to be able to have an opportunity in this game. Because when I look at Dak Prescott, I look at a quarterback that needs less support from the running game than a guy like Russell Wilson.
Absolutely.
And I think week one, right, it was a good example of like why Russell Wilson, it is so important for him to have that support around him, because you're not going to get elite play out of Russell Wilson without the running attack. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, that's a different story. Now, when you look at Tyrone Tracy, we've been talking about this a ton. He has not had more than 60 yards on the ground in 8 straight games. And in those 8 games, he has had double-digit rushing attempts 5 of the 8 times. There are 2 games here that had 10 rushing attempts, so you could kind of take that with a grain of salt there. But 10 rushes for 24 yards, 2.4 yards per carry versus Washington, that's not going to get it done against the Dallas Cowboys here, who are a worse rushing defense with the little bit of data that we have so far. This number that I saw come out from Warren Sharp, it truly hurt my heart, because I knew that the Giants' rushing attack was not good on Sunday against the Commanders. But as bad as it was, as the amount of runs that were stuffed at the line of scrimmage, it definitely was not a good look. 47% of the Giants' week 1 rushes resulted in 0 yards. That's almost half of your runs being stopped at the line of scrimmage. It was dead last in the NFL. To give you a little nugget about Washington going into your game, you guys only had 5% of your runs end in 0 yards or less. That was second best in the NFL. I'm really giving Tyrone Tracy this one more game here to prove that he should be RB1 before I start to ramp up the touches that Cam Scadaboo is ultimately going to be getting in this season. The Cowboys, dating back to last year, were not great against the run. They lost one of their best, if not, they lost their best defensive player in Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers, who you guys are going to play tonight. But the Cowboys, I thought, were still susceptible to the run in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys allowed the Eagles to rush for 158 yards last week in a game that looked like a very slow game for Saquon Barkley. And it surprised me that the Philadelphia Eagles were going a little bit running back by committee in that game, taking Saquon Barkley out on pivotal downs. In this game here with the New York Giants, I think it's going to be super important to emphasize Tyrone Tracy early on in this game. I would give Tyrone Tracy at least 7 or 8 attempts in the first half, at bare minimum. I'd like to see that number ramp up. We need to keep this game close going into the fourth quarter. And also, I think if you can establish that run, you're going to have those linebackers step up a little bit, which in return will help Russell Wilson have the game that he needs to have for the New York Giants to go out here and win this game.
Well, to double down on the New York Giants offense and what needs to happen in this game, I think we need to talk about Wan'Dale Robinson a little bit. Okay?
I like that.
I
like
feel
that.
like
before you even, because we ain't even talk about this, right? But before you go off into Wan'Dale, right? I've been seeing a lot of shade being thrown towards Wan'Dale Robinson and the New York Giants fan base. Why are we throwing the ball to this dwarf and all this crazy shit that people are saying, right? But Wan'Dale might have been the most productive wide receiver
he was the best. Listen, I'll say it. Malik Neighbors is Malik Neighbors, but Wan'Dale Robinson was the best offensive player for the New York Giants in that game.
I agree.
He made some really clutch catches. And listen, when you can't run the ball and you can't throw the ball to the tight end, if you guys haven't seen the Bellinger stuff, make sure you guys check that out. That's a little plug for Authentic and the Beard there. And shout out really fast. I totally forgot this. Shout out to everybody watching right now. The channel has crossed 1 million views.
Oh, I did see that. Shout out to the 1 million views, man.
1 million views.
But 1 or 1 million, bro, we here. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We here, bro.
Exactly. But Wan'Dale Robinson is the best option you have when you can't run the ball. And listen, you're going up against this Dallas defense. Okay, you saw what Dallas did against Philadelphia Eagles. They're probably going to do the same thing against the New York Giants. New York Giants wanted to attack downfield. That was their game plan. We talked about that in week 1. I doubt they do it again this week. Dallas Cowboys, 2 high safeties, 22 out of 65 snaps in week 1. They played zone coverage 100% of the defensive plays in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay? So I would be cautious about trying to throw the ball down the field. If you want to get them out of that too high zone, though, you're going to have to, you got to figure out a way to attack the intermediate parts of the field. And you do that with Wan'Dale Robinson and running the ball. Right?
That's what
you do.
About.
Okay. The other thing that's super interesting here also is that, I don't know the latest on Andrew Thomas. What's the latest on Andrew Thomas?
Hasn't been practicing. They were saying that he's expected to practice leading up to this game, but hasn't been practicing. My plug told me he was supposed to play this week. It's not looking good.
They're going to have to find a way to protect the quarterback.
Yeah.
Because 2.3 seconds pocket time.
When people are talking about the complaints about the offensive line, I think at least for this week and the performance from Russell Wilson that we saw, like not enough people are talking about how a running game can relinquish some of that pressure on the offensive line and the quarterback.
What? Okay, it's literally the same exact concept as what's the best the decisive quarterback.
Oh yeah, a decisive quarterback is an offensive lineman's best friend.
It's literally the same concept.
It is. All those things are going to aid each other group, right, or each other unit. Like if you can run the ball, then it's going to take some pressure off your offensive line. It takes pressure off your quarterback because then when you run play action, you can be that much more successful.
Yeah. So for me, that's offensively for the New York Giants. That's kind of what I'm looking for in what they're going to do. Now, we want to talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys offense.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit about the Dallas Cowboys offense. That offensive line, because I feel like as a Dallas Cowboys, you cover the Dallas Cowboys, you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. What's the one thing that you always feel confident in and year out?
Yeah, O-line, absolutely.
O-line, right? The O-line was not very good, okay? It's sneaky. Dak had how many times did Dak get sacked in week 1? Zero
I'm not
times.
too sure how many times. You got zero times, right? Good stuff.
So you're like, okay, that's not bad, right? Do you want to know how many the pressure percentage of Dak Prescott in that game?
Yeah, I know the pressure percentage, but go ahead.
37.1%.
Yeah.
Every offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys allowed multiple pressures.
A lot. See, that multiple's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. 35 dropbacks for Dak Prescott too.
So New York Giants. We talk about this. This is weird. I feel like we're in this like bizarro world where this Giants team for last year and even this year is resembling Washington teams of previous years, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of them being the defensive line, right? So, and the snap count was a little weird for me. Like I looked at for the New York Giants as far as Abdul Carter, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was it 60? I think it was 60-some% of snaps. But what a lot of people were complaining about is having all of the talent on the field at the same time with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter, which was only 8 of 65 snaps.
But they're talking about possibly trying to do some more of that now with
Mike McFadden out.
Being out.
Possibly. I mean, you could move him to off-ball linebacker. It's a thing to consider. But I do think that when you have a guy that is a little bit underweight for that kind of a position, playing like 3 tech or, maybe not having those kind of just the strength to play the inside linebacker. But at this point, the way that Bobby Okereke looked last week, the Giants got to exhaust all options here. And, I'm okay with seeing Abdul Carter go out there and play a little off-ball linebacker. But more importantly, I want to see Abdul Carter do what he does best. Let's line him up on the edge and let him pin his ears back on predictable downs and try to get after Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and the Giants defense has to be careful. They don't want to give up any too many big plays. They gave up the 6th most yards per completion in week 1 in the NFL. So, you want to try to eliminate that, obviously, and total 2nd most yards in week 1 as well. So those are some of the things that you're going to have to look for, because I feel like Giants defense is going to have to win this game for them. I feel like that's going to be a thing for some time now, until maybe there's a change in philosophy offensively.
I like that approach, but I also think that the offense has to play their part, right? I think it's not that the Giants defense is going to win the game for them. I think the Giants defense has to play well enough to keep them in the game and give the offense that opportunity to be able to go out there and score points. Because, you look at a Dak Prescott-led offense, I'm thinking that the New York Giants, if they want to think about winning this game, they need at least 24 points. Even in a lackluster performance from Dak Prescott, when we saw him last, I believe that was at MetLife, we were in that game. It ended up being a 1-score victory for the Cowboys, and I think they scored 20 in that game. You're not going to get that at home from Dak Prescott. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to put up some points, and I'm sure that CeeDee Lamb, after that performance last week, is really, really itching to get to this game on Sunday and try to redeem the performance that he had. Not that it was a bad performance, but just redeem those drops that really cost them the game after the delay.
And, you talked about CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens, the new addition for the Dallas Cowboys offensively, 3 catches for 30 yards. The targets were a little weird. 13 targets for CeeDee Lamb, 4 targets for George Pickens. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys find a way to up those targets purposefully against the New York Giants? And how successful do you think they can be doing that?
I don't think so, because it's the style of wide receiver that George Pickens is, right? He's a big play type of guy. It's kind of similar to how you guys use Terry McLaurin a good bit. Terry McLaurin's chunk of his yards always happen outside the hash marks on the sidelines, right? And the same thing is for George Pickens, to a more, egregious example, because Terry McLaurin can go across the middle, run quick slants. He's more well-rounded than Pickens is. But I think Pickens has to play off of CeeDee. The fact that they were able to target CeeDee Lamb that much in a game where he's the number one option on the offense, I actually encourage that, and I like that. It's showing that he's getting opportunities, he's getting open, and, Dak connected with him for 7 receptions for 110 yards, 15.7 yards per reception. That's a lot. You just got to find a way to clean up the drops, right? Now, I do think that the Giants secondary has a major task at hand here. Javon Holland didn't have the greatest game last week. It's just one game. I'm not going to jump the gun with Javon Holland, but we're waiting for him to get back to his true form that we saw in Miami in the first 2 years. But Paulson Adebo had an incredible game. But the problem here, I think, is that Paulson Adebo traveled with Terry McLaurin last week on 29 routes. He traveled with him on 23 of the 29, sorry. Terry McLaurin totaled 27 yards on the 4 targets in that game. So that's great. And when we have a cornerback, one, that can travel with the opposing team's best wide receiver, that's fantastic. But CeeDee Lamb plays the slot.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make it very difficult. Now we're talking about Drew Phillips. Are we going to keep him in the slot and be the primary defender that's going to be covering CeeDee Lamb in this game? I'm not 100% sure. I also think that it's important to get pressure on the quarterback here. And this is a very different way at looking at the pressure, because you look at Jaden Daniels in week 1, it's more about contain, right? When you look at Dak Prescott here in week 2 for the New York Giants, this is going to be about getting quick pressures. That's what Russell Wilson faced last week against the Washington Commanders. He was top 10 in the league as far as the amount of quick pressures that he faced. So we're talking about trying to get to the quarterback in under 2 seconds. Yeah. Immediately put Dak Prescott under pressure, because we know Dak. He's decisive, he's very aware, and he's got some of the best weapons that he has had in a long time. You could argue that these are the best weapons that Dak Prescott has had since 2021, right? George Pickens being added to the mix here. Now, the Giants have to find a way to be better on third down. Third down is going to be important in this game. You're looking at, I believe it was 4 of 17 last week for the offense for the New York Giants last week, right, against Washington. The Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'll continue to say without Jalen Carter, but still, 7 of 11 on third down against the Philadelphia Eagles. That is fantastic. Third down is going to be extremely important in this game.
Number 1 in the NFL, 63.6% conversion on third downs for Dallas Cowboys was best
in that one game.
Yep, best
right, which is really good to start the year. And I don't expect that trend to go throughout the entire year. But the Giants got to be better on third down on both sides of the ball. You got to find a way to limit Dak Prescott on third down. 7-11, that's not going to win the game. And then offensively, you cannot be going 4 for 17 on third down. Now, the other thing about pressure is the Giants have not done a good job of getting pressure on Dak Prescott in the past. 15 games against Dak Prescott in his career for the New York Giants. He's been sacked 15 times in 15 games.
How much of that is Dak in the quick release, though? The slants,
Most of
slants,
it,
right?
and the offensive line that you talked about, right? You know, everybody wants to say Jerry Jones is a shitty general manager, but then how do they maintain that offensive line that well all the time, right? Yeah. How do they always have premier talent outside at the wide receiver position? I think when it comes to the contracts, as you have noted earlier, that's the discrepancy when it comes to Jerry Jones, the general manager. But being sacked only 15 times in 15 games, and within those games, Dak Prescott has averaged 261 passing yards per game. 29 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 102.4 and a completion percentage of 65.3. If the numbers that Dak Prescott puts out here on Sunday are anywhere near those numbers, the Giants basically do not have a shot at winning this game. You look at the last time that Dak Prescott played the New York Giants at Jerry World, he put up 404 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, and he even added a rushing touchdown in that game. You talked about George Pickens. I think that, that was a very quiet game from George Pickens. But I think the more that Dak Prescott and George Pickens build chemistry throughout the year, I think we're going to see a very upgraded version of Brandon Cooks in George Pickens as his role develops within this Dallas Cowboys offense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those sideline shots too. I would like to see kind of George. I know it's a different situation, obviously, but watching Keon Coleman against the Baltimore Ravens, absolutely slayed them on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
That is, and in my mind, that's how I see George Pickens fitting in this offense, right? Like just being a sideline killer.
Contested catches, man.
Contested catches, a bigger target in the red zone. To me, that's what's going to be interesting is to see, can they find that sort of rhythm with George Pickens in this offense? I thought Jake Ferguson played pretty well for the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to need him, especially with the kind of the intermediate defense that the Giants are going to be putting on the field in this game particularly.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be an interesting look to see how much Jake Ferguson can produce against the New York Giants defense. And, we talked about it briefly a little bit ago, but the Giants have to find some production out of the tight ends. Like, what are we doing?
For those y'all that didn't see the rant, I'm banging the table right now for Daniel Bellinger to get more reps at the tight end position because he just seems to be reliable. What is Brian Dable and Joe Shane saying? Smart, tough, and dependable. That's exactly what Daniel Bellinger has been, but for some reason he's been in the doghouse. I really don't understand it. So for me to just kind of reiterate, man, it's RTDB. STDR, get off the field on third down, apply pressure by any means necessary. I didn't like that Shane Bowen just kind of sat back and allowed his front four to go out there and get dominated without putting real pressure on Jaden Daniels that made him uncomfortable. And I think most importantly, coming out of last season, 16.1 points per game, and then you come out here in week 1 against the Washington Commanders and you put up 6 points, you can't even score a touchdown. Brian Dable has not scored a touchdown in 3 straight home or 3 straight week 1 openers. You got to go out here and score some motherfucking points, New York. That's the number one thing to this game plan. And listen, if we're going to lose this game, again, I just want to, reiterate my stance on it. Make it a blowout, man. I'm trying to see Jackson Dart in the fourth quarter. And to these fans that are telling me, man, hey, man, stop with the old, we don't want to have Jackson Dart go out there without Andrew Thomas. That's bullshit right there. He's a grown-up. He's a quarterback that should be the future franchise quarterback for the New York Giants. I'm not handcuffing Jackson Dart to Andrew Thomas, who has not been dependable during his time here with the New York Giants.
Definitely in line. And listen, to double down on the quarterback stuff, I heard some interesting takes, them saying it's kind of what you're talking about, like without Andrew Thomas and, they're going against the Chiefs next week. And then, like the schedule is brutal for the first 5 weeks.
It is.
Right. So it's like you pick your poison at this point, if you decide to move on to Jackson Dart. But some people were saying, like, if you don't want to move to Jackson Dart right away, why not just play Jameis Winston?
You can't. It's too late. You already labeled Jackson Dart as quarterback 2. You know how soft you're going to look if when it's time to put quarterback 2 in, you go to Jameis Winston. just looks discombobulated. And I think that was just a bad move by the New York Giants in the first place, declaring that Jackson Dart should be quarterback 2. You could have had him on the depth chart as quarterback 3, and when all said and done, if Russell Wilson got hurt, fuck it. We're going with Jackson Dart.
We see that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Where they go, they put the rookie in at QB3, and then when it's time to put in the backup, they go to QB3, right?
I think a lot of people just don't understand that the reps are so important. They want the results right now, right? And they're like, oh, this kid's going to go out there and get killed. He's not going to win games. That's not what it's about. Eli Manning came out here in 2004 with Kurt Warner at a 500 record. The Giants opted to move to Eli Manning with 7 games left in the season, and Eli Manning proceeded to go out there and play like straight up dog shit, and he lost 7 straight games. But let me tell you why that was important. When we came back the next season, Eli Manning was ready to go. And from that point on, from 2005, never again did the New York Giants have a losing record all the way up until 2012. So that preparation of those 7 games where Eli Manning lost those games, that was why he came back the following year in 2005 and was absolutely ready to go. I believe the New York Giants won 11 games in Eli Manning's sophomore year and made the playoffs. So for me, there's nothing that's going to stop me from playing my rookie quarterback early, most importantly, right? But also there's not a player that's going to stop me. Like if Andrew Thomas goes, let's say, on IR here in a couple of weeks and they feel like this, I believe, what is it, a Liz Frank or something in his foot or whatever it is, if they feel like that's going to keep him out for longer, does that mean now we got to wait on Jackson Dart and say, oh, well, you can't play because Andrew Thomas is not healthy? Yo, I hate to even just approach this like this, but that is just such soft behavior. That is, people who played football do not operate like that.
You know what that is, too? And obviously,
Daniel Jones PTSD.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. You already knew it. You already knew it.
Oh, I don't want my quarterback to be shell shocked.
Yeah, I don't think
dude was not going to be great anyway.
This is not Jackson Dart. Is not that guy, right?
No.
Like he's not Zach Wilson. He's not Daniel Jones. Like he's built a little bit different, a lot of bit different. Okay, but I think that's what a lot of that is people are worried about that, and I don't think that you need to be worried about that. I mean, look at J.J. McCarthy, for example, right?
Yeah. No Darisaw. No Darisaw in that game at left tackle.
Yeah.
You think they were like, oh, no, maybe we
he's
got to
coming
go
off
with
of
Sam
an injury,
Howell.
too, and they're a guy, but, like, what are they going to be like, okay, hey, we're gonna pump the brakes a little bit. And
the Andrew Thomas one to me makes absolutely no fucking sense, man.
You better get used to playing without Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's going to be out there all the time. All the
He's never out there, man. He's always hurt. Every year he's hurt. So why don't we want to get our quarterback conditioned to not playing without a guy that's normally not out there? And then here's the thing too, right? It's like Jackson Dart's quarterback too, and people are like, we don't want him to play behind this offensive line because we don't want to see him get killed out there. He's labeled quarterback too. So let's just say against Dallas, Russell Wilson ends up going out there and he ends up getting hurt. Are we going to go, got to coddle my future franchise quarterback? I don't want him to go out there and get hurt. So let's bring in Jameis Winston and just, fuck it. Let's lose this game. Even if we think Jackson Dart is the best quarterback on this roster, no, we got to protect our quarterback. No, get him out there, throw him out there to the Wolves, see if he's somebody that can handle the Wolves and see if he can go out there and win you some games.
I like that.
All right, let's tap into some of these super chats one time real quick.
Big shout out to Doom with the 999 super chat. Says LFG, which stands for Let's Fucking Go. New York Giants, which is NYG. STDR, which stands for Stop the Damn Run. And RTDB, which means Run the Damn Ball. HTTC, which means Hail to the Commanders. And Heineke.
I thought you were about to say Hadouken.
Appreciate you, Doom.
Hey, big shout out, Doom, for helping us raise the bar, man.
And big shout out to Door Gunner. We've changed the sound effects to with their $2 super chat. Says you get to watch actual good football tonight.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Tick.
I got no pushback on that. Green Bay Packers are a good team.
He
Washington
gets
Commanders,
to play
good team.
good football tonight. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm going to be out there. Take care of business against y'all. Shout out Door Gunner one time with another one.
Big shout out to Door Gunner with the $10 super chat. Says you should call the Better Business Bureau because the Giants scammed their fans. Crazy how fast Giants fans went from Shane's amazing offseason and different vibes to season's over.
Dog. Come on,
Same
dog.
old Giants.
Come on, dog. Come on.
It is kind of crazy.
Come
that
on,
one week,
dog.
that 1 week 360 was wild. I mean,
was.
Let me tell you, shout out to Twitter. Twitter never disappoints, right? They literally are just like, my timeline is filled with all the Commanders fans who bookmarked Bad Dog's tweet because he told them to bookmark it.
What was the tweet?
The tweet was like, you bookmark it. Watch the New York Giants are basically going to beat the brakes off of the Commanders week 1, and they're not scared. And the defensive line is coming for them. And he told them to bookmark it. Man, it was. There must have been 500 bookmarks on that tweet because it was all over my timeline.
That's what's the saying? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, that turnaround was pretty quick. Week 1, yeah.
Ah, that was terrible. We got one more here.
Big shout out to Prime Mo, also known as Primo. That's my cousin. For the $4.99 super chat, says, how can we expect Tracy to do what even the best running back in the league couldn't do? This bum-ass O-line is the problem.
I mean, I don't know. We did see Saquon Barkley in 2022 have a stellar season. We did see Saquon Barkley behind a porous offensive line in 2018 not only light the league up from a rushing standpoint, he also caught over 90 receptions that year. Tyrone Tracy's got a lot of fucking catching up to do before we start to put him in that conversation with Saquon Barkley.
Well, I think also what he's saying is that, Saquon Barkley didn't run the ball very well against the Dallas defense, technically. And how are we supposed to expect Tyrone Tracy to do that?
I think this is about last week more than Tyrone Tracy has not had a bullshit game against the Cowboys this year yet, so we can only go off of this year. I'm reading that as, Tyrone Tracy struggles from week 1 in the last 7 weeks of what we've seen from Tyrone Tracy.
There's a pattern with Tyrone Tracy. I hate to break it to you guys.
And this is the other thing that a lot of Giants fans forget. This is nowhere near the same offensive line that Saquon Barkley was running behind last year. Yeah. The interior is completely swapped out. Or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, from 2023. The interior offensive line is completely swapped out. We didn't have Jermaine Illuminor, one of the better right tackles right now, serviceable right tackle playing. We didn't have John Runyon Jr. We didn't have Greg Van Roten out there. It was a totally different line. You had a bunch of other bums that weren't as good as these bums that are on the roster right now. So I don't think the comparison is even apples to apples, actually.
Also, what are we doing here, New York Giants? Can you guys just give Baby All-Stop the ball when you're at the 5-yard line? When you guys run 13 plays from the 5-yard line and you score touchdown?
When you try to run play action.
Because there was some moments there where Baby All-Stop was like,
Listen, man. He had 2 receptions for 12 yards.
I saw you.
He had 2 carries for -3 yards. I'm not crowning this kid Baby All-Star anything right now. All right, Baby All-State. They need some insurance without a fucking deductible right now, and he's supposed to be that, and he wasn't that in that game. I want to see him get more touches. Tyrone Tracy, to me, this is the last performance to hold a grip on that running back 1 situation with the New York Giants.
Okay, before we get into scores. I have to ask one question. How much of that week 1 matchup do you think was improvement on the Washington Commanders' run defense and defense as a whole in comparison to just the New York Giants being worse than we might have thought they were off of the preseason hype?
Bit of both. Forget the preseason hype. Let's look at the running game last year with Tyrone Tracy and this exact same fucking unit, right? The exact same team with Tyrone Tracy. He was an average running back, in my opinion, right? He's capable. Not to say he's not capable. When you look at what Washington did in the offseason, a lot of people kind of overlooked this move, but bringing in more weight, Javon Kinlaw, right, to pair with Daron Payne. Those 2 guys wrecked that game along with Dorrance Armstrong with the 9 pressures on the outside. So you got bigger bodies up front. This is the kind of philosophy that Shane Bowen was dealing with when he was with the Tennessee Titans and the kind of personnel that they worked with, and a reason why me and a lot of other Giants fans, for that matter, have said that the 2-speed edge rushers and adding more speed is kind of a weird dynamic with a guy like Shane Bowen that really needs the girth up front on that defensive line. You do got Dexter Lawrence and whatnot, but I just think that, as far as the Giants running the ball, more of it had to do with the way that you guys upgraded this offseason. And, man, I had a ton of my homies telling me, like, oh, I like the moves that the Giants made in the offseason more than the moves that the Commanders made. The Commanders had a lackluster free agency and had a lackluster offseason. And I'm just like, they just brought in 2 new tackles and a new weapon in Deebo Samuel. They brought in a new interior defensive lineman. They've upgraded in the secondary by bringing in Trey Amos through the draft. Like, are y'all not paying attention? Like, the Giants are running back the same exact offense, basically added Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo, and Abdul Carter. You could add Chauncey Golston, Darius Alexander to that mix, but that's it. You know, I was talking about this on a Giant Overreaction, Beard. You look at the 22 starters from the New York Giants last season, right? They only replaced 4 guys of the 22 guys. Why are we expecting such brand new results? That's why I came into this year pumping the brakes. Yeah, I'm hyped for my future franchise quarterback, but that's for the future. That hype does not have me thinking that the New York Giants are going to go out here and be an 11-win team in 2025.
That's a good point. One question for you. I know I said we were going to move on to scores, but one more question.
Yeah.
Was Adobo?
Adobo?
Adobo. I love adobo. My wife's half Dominican. Adobo goes on everything.
Facts.
Adobo, was he on McLaurin on the overthrow double move? Do you know off the top of your head?
Remember.
You watched the 22?
If I had to guess, I watched more of the all 22 from an offensive standpoint from us too. I didn't look at a lot of the defensive snaps. I got to keep it real.
Because that was a good point.
But 23 or 29, probably.
Yeah.
You know, probably.
Because he did a really good job, and that was the only like play that really stood out to me that he could have messed up on, and we missed that, and we can't miss that.
And that's been the knock on Adebo. If he was in coverage on that play, that has been the knock on him. He's a bit handsy and sometimes can be a little bit over aggressive. You know, a la a Trayvon Diggs type of vibe, a little bit. You know, ball hawking type of vibe. But I like what we saw out of Paulson Adebo in Week 1. I want to see the equal productivity from Javon Holland in this Week 2 matchup. Just get the Giants an opportunity to win this game. But for me, Beard, is no way after seeing what I saw last week against the Washington Commanders in Week 1, where, you know, I would be convinced to pick the New York Giants to beat the Dallas Cowboys at home. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys in a convincing victory. I'm going to call this one. I think the Giants will get a touchdown in this game, but prove to me that this offense can move and score more points. I'm going 31-13 in favor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, you know, there's some sunshine here. I got a little bit more faith, and maybe it's just the Dallas disbeliever in me. But I have Dallas 24, New York Giants 17.
Good stuff. Safe score. It wouldn't surprise me if the score leans a little bit more closer to what you're saying. But I just think that if the New York Giants offense can't come out here and play to a higher level, they deserve to get their ass beat 31-14. And hopefully it'll be like 28-14 entering the fourth quarter. And we get to see my dog Jackson Dart go out there and take some meaningful snaps and prove to the New York Giants fan base why the fuck we drafted him in the first round.
Do you think that's a thing, though? Do you think it'll be a possible mid-game move, or do you think they would wait until a fresh full start?
Yeah, I think it'll be – well, I got a different answer from both of the two options. I don't think it'll be a mid-game like, oh, halftime shit, you know, man, hey, we're down by 10, throw them in there. I don't think it'll be that. But I also think that, you know, if we're getting blown out a certain way here, it's a good opportunity. I mean, if you look at it, you entering the fourth quarter, you down by 2 or 3 scores, that's a good opportunity to get your rookie quarterback some reps.
Yeah. All right, well, good luck to New York Giants fans and the Dallas Cowboy fans in the chat. Shout out.
Dallas Cowboys not going to need it. The New York Giants absolutely going to need it. Let's talk about this Washington matchup, man. Thursday Night Football, Week 2 primetime game for Jaden Daniels going up against your boy right here. Y'all know what it is, man. This is going to be a great matchup. Looking forward to this one. Let's get right into it. The Commanders are traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers.
He's elevated an otherwise average roster, made him a viable Super Bowl contender.
We're not there yet, and that's why I think in the early part of the season that identity is formed, not by what's called, but how you play it. And I'm watching the how a lot.
5 days later, they give us the heavyweight fight that everybody wants. Jaden Daniels on one side and Micah Parsons on the other.
And look at the effort, the speed, the closing ability, the bend.
You said for some reason with Jaden Daniels, the rookie rules don't apply.
All right, y'all, we got the Packers traveling to Lambeau Field. Kickoff is at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time tonight on one of my favorite networks, Amazon Prime. Make sure to turn on your Prime Vision if you like those all 22 vibes a little bit live. I like to kind of flip back and forth. Over-under in this one is 48.5. The Packers are favored by 3.5, so with that 3 at home, it's really just a half a point favorite here in this game. Last meeting, the Commanders beat the Packers 23-21 in Landover, Maryland on October 23rd, 2022. Last week, Commanders beat the Giants impressively. Packers beat the Lions even more impressively, 27-13. The Packers have won 6 straight games at Lambeau Field versus the Washington Commanders. That is definitely an accomplishment for them Green Bay Packers. The Commanders have not won in Lambeau, goddamn, since 1988. I was 5 years old. That's a long damn time ago. But I think more importantly here for the Packers, they have not started 2-0 since 2020. That was Matt LaFleur's second season in Green Bay and ultimately ended up making the playoffs that year. Two teams that add pieces around their young quarterbacks to make the push. I think that is what is important about this matchup. This is a playoff preview here, okay? You see that the Washington Commanders have added a ton to their offensive line, weapons, all the stuff we talked about in the last matchup here. And then the Green Bay Packers just recently traded for Micah Parsons. They also stole Xavier McKinney in free agency from the New York Giants, and that defense is definitely a defense that is climbing the charts, being looked at as one of the better defenses in the league. Me and the Beard had to find that out the hard way in our fantasy football league just last week when I'm going to take the blame, when I kind of overthought the matchup with the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions. We ultimately ended up going with the Miami Dolphins defense, and that was not a good idea.
Are we starting Green Bay's defense tonight?
We got to, right? We got to.
No, I don't know. We'll talk after.
We'll talk about that off air for sure. But the Commanders, man, you know, they're still riding that wave from last season. You know, they finished last season with 5 straight wins. You add that win against the Giants on Sunday, that makes 6 straight wins for the Commanders. And Jaden Daniels is off to an impressive start. It really reminds me of Lamar Jackson and how he started his career from a winning percentage standpoint. He's now 13-5 in the regular season as a starter. Short week for both teams here, so really no advantage outside of Green Bay not having to travel for this Thursday night matchup. The Washington Commanders did have to waste a day there as far as traveling goes. But for me, again, I think this is very similar to the game with the New York Giants going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Which team can apply more pressure on the quarterback? With Daniels, we know it's all about contain, and with Jordan Love, it's all about quick pressure, right? So this is similar to what I was saying about the New York Giants. Like, you went up against Jaden Daniels week 1, it was contain. Now you're going up against Dak Prescott, and it's all about, you know, getting those quick pressures. Jordan Love, I mean, you look at last year and just the way that he was able to stay upright within that offense. He was sacked just 14 times last year in 15 games. That's kind of like Dak Prescott playing the New York Giants every week, where he, in his 15 games, has only been sacked 15 times. Love had 7 games last year where he was not sacked at all. And Love was not sacked one time on Sunday. You brought that up. Love had 6 games in 2023 with 0 sacks as well, but the number did breach 30 in 2023. And Jordan Love just didn't have to deal with pressure in week 1 at all. He was only pressured just 3 times versus the Detroit Lions, which is kind of crazy because that Detroit Lions defense is normally known, at least over the last couple of years, as being a unit to get after the quarterback. He only had to scramble 1 time in that game.
Especially with Hutchinson, too. They did a good job on him.
And he looked a little gimpy in training camp to me. I don't know if that's translating into the regular season or not, but, you know, you just pray to God that Aiden Hutchinson can get back to his elite level of play here. For Jaden Daniels, it's a bit of the opposite. He is still of the mold of the mobile quarterbacks, that high risk, high reward type of things here, right? Because sometimes he's going to over scramble or maybe hold on to the ball a little bit too long, maybe take an unnecessary sack by trying to make a play that he mentally thinks he can get out of dodge. But in return, it's making him a quarterback that is getting sacked a ton. He was sacked 47 times last season. And granted, you know, considering the talent that y'all had up front on that offensive line, not too bad for Jaden Daniels, because when you just use the eye test, it seemed like Jaden Daniels did a fine job of staying upright and just avoiding pressure last year. But in that week 1 matchup, his pressure to sack percentage was 30%. I think those mistakes will be ironed out in this game against the Green Bay Packers. You can't quite take some of those risks that we saw against the New York Giants last week, but he was pressured just 10 times versus the Giants. The Packers had 4 sacks versus Jared Goff. Micah Parsons got the Jared Goff in that game as well. More play action, more moving the pocket, I think, for Jordan Love and for Jaden Daniels for that regard. And Daniels had 0 sacks last week when running play action. So I think that if you guys can establish the run, that will in return have Jaden Daniels being able to run that play action that he is so comfortable running, and it'll just be a much easier task at keeping Jaden Daniels upright. My question for you is, how do you think that Jaden Daniels will fare versus the new Green Bay Packers defense that just added Micah Parsons a couple of weeks ago?
There's a lot of guys on that front for the Green Bay Packers that aren't guys, right? Yeah. Like people
Jags.
that not everybody knows who they are, but they play like you should know who they are. They did, and let's not. There's a big difference between Washington defense against the New York Giants in week 1 and the Packers defense against the Detroit Lions in week 1. Right, not to throw any stray bullets or anything, you know, but
I caught one. I was watching Ace Ventura yesterday. You remember when he caught the bullet in his teeth? Yeah, that's how I just caught one just now.
But, like, you know, the Detroit Lions were the #1 offense in the NFL last year. Okay,
Yeah.
So And it's not like they lost anybody, right? What did they lose? Tim Patrick, but they added my guy Tesla. That's a fantasy sleeper for you guys, okay?
Baller.
So listen, they had the third most sacks. You talked about the sacks four in week 1. That's the third most in the NFL after week 1 and the first game. Second most quarterbacks in the National Football League in week 1 with 9. Second most tackles for losses in week 1 with 9. Okay. The 8th best third down defense in week 1 at 33%. And that's a defensive stat line against the Detroit Lions.
Good team.
That's a good team. So,
is there any part of it that makes you say it was a divisional matchup? Maybe there, you know what I mean? Like a little bit of, the familiarity with the other team.
If we're gonna, chime in and we're allowed to use excuses, well, we'll throw some excuses out there, okay? No new offensive coordinator, okay? Like you're on the road. I mean, there's some of those things there, but I think that Lions offense, people look at it as this high-flying offense, right? They don't realize that how much of that high-flying offense is, we talk about it all the time, is fueled by the ability to run the ball, right?
Facts.
And they held Jamar Gibbs and
Jameer.
And Montgomery down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think they held them to, what was it, 47 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep.
Which was the fewest rushing yards by a team in the NFL week 1. Tied with Cincinnati, I think, also had 47 yards on the ground rushing. So you're going to have to find a way.
That Cincinnati game started off kind of nice for Chase Brown, too. I theyought he had a big run early in that game. That's interesting they finished that poorly.
So but listen, this is also the thing. Jaden Daniels is not Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Okay? Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFL going into this year. Okay? But without the mobility, that defense ate them up a lot, right?
This kind of goes back to some of the comparisons we've made with the Giants and other quarterbacks around the league, right? Jared Goff is still a quarterback that needs the surroundings around him, the running game clicking, those kind of things. Jaden Daniels is the kind of guy that can go out there when things aren't clicking and still put up over 300 total yards of offense. And that's something that Jared Goff just doesn't really have in his game without the surroundings helping him. And I'm not saying like Jared Goff is not a capable quarterback. He's absolutely capable. Yeah. But he needs a good offensive line because he's more of a statue in that pocket. He's not a guy that's going to make people miss in that pocket.
And to kind of flip-flop that with Washington and their pressure, they were able to kind of get a lot of pressure with the base defense.
They getting 4 after Russell Wilson.
They did blitz, I think, 9 times in that game. So
and 37 dropbacks.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be an opportunity here for Washington to hopefully there's an opportunity for Washington to be able to do the same thing. But obviously you have to stop the run in order to be able to do that as well. But you're going to have to finish. That's one thing that Washington didn't do necessarily well against the New York Giants. And I will sit here and say I think Jordan Love is more elusive than Russell Wilson at the quarterback position.
I mean, I don't think anybody would give you any pushback on that.
Okay, yeah. So
Jordan Love, he's elusive to create time and buy time to throw the ball down the field. That's the big difference.
Yeah, he's not going to necessarily take off.
I think he only had 83 rushing yards the entire year last year and 1 rushing touchdown.
So Washington has to finish the play. I think that's something that they struggled with last year, and it looked like they struggled with it in the first game against the New York Giants. They need to finish, the sack. They had 7 tackles for loss against the New York Giants, which was the 4th most. They had 8 quarterback hits, which was the 3rd most in the NFL week 1. And they were able to get that pressure without blitzing, which kind of allows them to play that intermediate field passing game, protect that if you can get the pressure with the front 4, right? Because that is something that you're going to have to be able to do against the Green Bay Packers, because they got a guy, and Authentic will tell you this is a guy that I've been talking about because I convinced Authentic that we need to draft this guy. His name is Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Okay? Tucker Kraft is a guy. Okay.
Touchdown last week, too.
Touchdown last week. Had a good game last week. He's a guy you're going to have to keep your eye out on. I think that this entire Green Bay receiving core, it sounds crazy because what did they do? They added Matthew Golden. But I feel like this entire receiving core is improved, right? And maybe that is not necessarily improvement by addition, but improvement by just growth because there's young. The Green Bay Packers are the youngest team in the NFL.
And you guys are the oldest team.
And we're
in
the
NFL.
oldest. Yes. So, this is basically a matchup of the old guys, the OGs, versus the new kids on the block.
I'm taking the OGs, man. I mean, not necessarily in this matchup, but I got to represent for the OGs, bro. But there was one thing you said there, and I want to respond to about what you were saying about Jordan Love.
The elusiveness.
It was about his elusiveness, but I can't remember. It was a little key point that you were talking about. But go ahead, keep it going.
So the Commanders are going to have to get that pressure, and there's an opportunity. I haven't been able to check. I don't know if there's any news that has come out. It's still a little early, obviously, but the Green Bay offensive line, two guys who they gave big bucks to, right tackle Zach Tom and left guard Aaron Banks. Both of those guys left the matchup in week 1 against the Lions. Both of those guys are questionable.
Yeah.
That could be a huge swing of momentum for the Washington Commanders if one of those guys or both of those guys are out for this game.
That could be the run and the pass.
Both the run and the pass. Yeah, absolutely. And so that immediate, for Jordan Love, that immediate, zone of where we refer to the immediate pass zone as 10 to 19 yards. Okay. He
intermediate.
Intermediate. What did I say?
I didn't hear you. That's why I clarified it for you.
Intermediate zone is 10 to 19 yards. He had the 5th best passer rating of any quarterback in the NFL in those 10 to 19-yard throws in week 1. Not only did he do that, but on the deep ball, he was also the 5th best quarterback passer rating of any deep passes in the NFL. So those are some numbers to keep your eye out on, because if you're not able to get that pressure with those front four, you're going to open up the door in that immediate range for intermediate range for Tucker Kraft to eat.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be, for me, that middle of the field is going to be very interesting.
I remember what I was going to say in response to what you were talking about. The addition to the wide receiver room. Bringing in Matthew Golden, who really didn't have a big game or nothing like that. I think it was 2 receptions or something like that. But we can't forget about Christian Watson and his injury. And he also just got an extension. He got a year extension on the contract, even though he's injured, still nursing that knee injury. So once they get back to all the way 100%, they're going to have a whole entire stable of wide receivers over there. And you just hope, if you're a Packers fan, that Matthew Golden turns into, that true bona fide number one that they actually need.
Too. All young. Watson, Reed, Wicks, and Golden.
Yeah, and Dobbs.
And then you got Kraft. And Dobbs. Dobbs is the elder there.
Yeah, So they definitely got a lot of talent there. And, I do think it's important for Jordan Love, even though we talked about like quarterbacks that don't need the running game, like a Jaden Daniels. For Jordan Love, I think it is important that he does have a little bit more support in the running game here going up against the Washington Commanders, because we know that the Commanders are a team that can and have that possibility to go out there and score a ton of points. Last week, the Packers only averaged 3.1 yards per carry, but they held Detroit to 2.1 yards per carry. And I thought that was the difference in that game. Josh Jacobs had just 66 yards on 19 attempts. He did score a touchdown, and he's had a touchdown in a franchise record 9 straight games for Josh Jacobs. So that is on the line here. Washington, on the other hand, they ran the ball extremely well, and a lot of that is because they have the dual threat quarterback, 6.9 yards per carry. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, my dog, 10 rushes for 82 yards and the touchdown. You're talking 220 yards against the Giants last week. The Packers held the Lions to actually 46 rushing yards last week, and that was first in the NFL. But, you look at the Commanders and the way that they stopped the run last week, and I think this is what we really got to pay attention to in this game tonight. They held the New York Giants running backs to just 33 yards.
Yeah.
That is just an impeccable performance from that defense. And a lot of that happened because of Javon Kinlaw and Daron Payne. You want to see a repeat performance of that if you're a Washington Commanders fan. And also, one last thing I want to talk about here is Deebo Samuel. It will not surprise me if Deebo Samuel leads the Washington Commanders in targets again in this matchup, because the focal point is going to be Terry McLaurin in the passing game as far as the explosive plays and limiting those explosive plays. But when you look at Deebo Samuel, he's a guy that, one, gets a ton of yards after the catch, and he's a guy that can accumulate scrimmage yards by getting the ball in the backfield, but also catching those short bubble screens. These were things that I alluded to when I was talking about having those playmakers on your team, that when things are going wrong for the quarterback, you can just dial up a quick bubble, a quick arrow screen, get the ball into a wide receiver's hands that's going to make a play and then create that yak. Deebo Samuel right now, he's tied for 4th in the NFL with 36 touchdowns from scrimmage since 2021. I don't understand why a lot of people are thinking this guy's falling off a cliff. The only other players with that many touchdowns or more during that stretch is Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. So to me, Deebo Samuel is still a premier talent in this league until further notice, until we see him maybe fall off of that cliff that everybody always wants to try to be the first person to say this player is going to fall off a fucking cliff. I heard it with Saquon Barkley a fucking ton, and it just does not happen. We heard it with Tom Brady when he left New England and went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you saw what the fuck happened, right? Tom Brady goes out there and wins another trophy. So my thing is like, I'm getting tired of the hypothetical scenarios of why people are falling off a cliff. Let's get the data that insinuates that player is truly falling off a cliff before we actually start saying that.
And I said it last week. I said, don't be surprised if Deebo Samuel has his best year statistically as a professional. This year.
You did say that. I'm not going to go that egregious, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's fact.
For me, it's the best quarterback he's ever played with, right? With Jaden Daniels. I mean, there's nobody else.
Just Jimmy G,
Brock
who else
Purdy.
Brock Purdy, and I'm like there was some
a
other,
bunch of other,
Nick
maybe
Mullins,
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance for a game or two, I'm sure. Yeah.
So best quarterback he's ever played with. And then you put that in with Cliff Kingsbury's offensive style and structure. I think it's built for a guy like Deebo Samuel. And shout out to Authentic in the Beard. We hit our parlay last week on Thursday night. I think Deebo Samuel's going to be a guy that we put in our parlay tonight. Do you want to know what his over/under is for rushing and receiving combined yards?
So basically, scrimmage yards over/under. I'm going to go with 87.5.
59.5.
I mean, that seemed like a no-brainer right there.
No-brainer. We're taking that over. Look for that in the Authentic in the Beard parlay. Make sure you're following both of us on Twitter. Listen, RTDB is a big thing here. As always has been, always will be. This is an interesting stat that I've kind of, I've been digging around a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like 3 o'clock in the morning, open the refrigerator, see what's in there.
Ain't it rewarding when you do that? Like when you dig and you find, you're like, no one's talking about this.
Expected points contributed by rushing. The Washington Commanders, number 1 in the NFL week 1 with 11.94 expected points contributed by rushing. The only other team that had double-digit points was the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
So
we need to separate that, man. The NFL got to find a way to separate these numbers because obviously, the support of the rushing, it's like now Jay Daniels is supporting himself.
But listen, Washington's got to clean up a lot, okay?
Yeah.
You can't – if Washington played exactly like how they did against the New York Giants, against the Green Bay Packers, they lose the game. There's no debate there, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You got to be better on third downs. They were really bad on third downs. The penalties were horrific. I think the final number was like 11 penalties total. It was either 11, 12, or 13. Either way, double-digit penalties is a really bad look, okay?
Yeah.
The offensive line play was pretty good, not great. I'm a little sketchy on PFF grades when it comes to offensive line, but some of those guys did not grade well. Some of them graded like in the 20s. So it was not a good look if you're looking at it from that perspective. There was some drops. Deebo had a drop. Some missed throws by Terry McLaurin.
The Deebo drop was just a little off target, just a little bit.
The one on the sideline, that was a high one, right?
Oh, I was talking about the one. Okay, if that's the one that they counted as the drop, then I'll give you that. But the one I was talking about was where he was like lined up in the slot. He ran like a quick hitter route, got behind the defense, and the ball was like out on his extended arms.
That to me was the next line here, and that's the Jaden Daniels missed throws. He had a couple of ones that were off target, a little bit behind, a little bit high.
He's so good at throwing to wide receivers that are moving in stride when they have the DB on their hip. And sometimes when you see him inaccurate in that situation, it makes you go, why aren't we consistent when doing that? But those are very difficult throws. I thought a lot of those throws where he was minimally inaccurate were in, it wasn't like wide.
They were in the
throws.
zone they need to be in, but they weren't in Jaden Daniels' accuracy.
Just missing just a little bit.
Just a little bit, right? And that's something that will come, I believe. Like that's a rust thing. That's not a concern thing for me. And then the deep throw to Terry McLaurin, obviously limited, exercise between the two of them in the offseason. But like that's a touchdown all day.
You know what I like about Jaden Daniels? He doesn't underthrow wide receivers. You notice that on those deep shots? If he's gonna miss, he's gonna miss far and long for the most part, right? He's not a guy that, like, when you looked at Russell Wilson and the one that he missed on Malik Neighbors on that fade route, it's like, Dog, that looked like me out there throwing the fade, bro. I'm going to keep it funky. Like, it's that short. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, come on, get the ball down the field. Now, Jaden Daniels does do a good job of that. You spoke about penalties, and I want to talk about that because remaining discipline is super important for the Commanders in this game. It was 12 penalties for 89 yards, but the Packers, they're not going to be an undisciplined team, and that's why the Commanders, the emphasis to even remain more disciplined is that much more important. Packers had just 4 penalties in that entire game against the Detroit Lions in week 1 for just 40 yards. So got to remain disciplined in this game. And, that 12 penalties, Commanders want to see that cut down in at least half as far as the penalties go and half on the yards as well.
Yeah, and, the missed opportunities, those sort of things hopefully will change moving forward for the Washington Commanders. And it's just one of those things where week 1, a little bit of rust, but you cannot make those mistakes, and you cannot not take advantage of those opportunities against the Green Bay Packers.
It's super interesting with y'all because Jaden Daniels is like that kind of quarterback that don't got to go out there and be perfect. It's like you look at a Joe Burrow game when he really torches you, it's pretty much a flawless type of game. It'll be like 4 touchdowns.
26 for 29,
You know what I'm saying? Like even a guy like Jared Goff, he'll go like 26 of 30 and have 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But like Jaden Daniels has this ability to like make it a little bit ugly. It's very similar to Jalen Hurts actually, like where it's like the passing numbers don't got to be off the charts. It's about excelling in those big clutch moments. I don't think any other quarterbacks in this league do it more than a guy like Jalen Hurts or a guy like Jaden Daniels when we're talking about last season. These guys are in big pressure moments, and time after time they deliver for their team. The amount of second down and longs that Jaden Daniels had last week against the New York Giants, and where it just felt like he's going to get it. Like I love that feeling. And honestly, the Giants gave me a little bit of that in the preseason with Jackson Dart, where I'm like, yo, 3rd down and 4, let's go get this fucking money. We got Jackson Dart at quarterback. And I'm sure when you have Jaden Daniels at quarterback, that feeling is inflated probably times 10.
The composure alone.
Yeah, man.
Like I saw this skit, right, where the guy had like an old school like 1-bar Russell Redskins helmet with a Jaden Daniels jersey on, and he's like Jaden Daniels after every play, and he's like in the backyard, he throws it, and he looks over at the camera, and he's like, Jaden Daniels like falls, gets hit, gets sacked, and he gets up, and he's like.
Did you hear what Brian Burns said about Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, he talks too much. I don't want to be your friend.
I can imagine Jaden Daniels like, hey, Brian, how you doing today, man? Everything all right? He's like, he's trying to get under. He's playing mind games with me, trying to be friends and whatnot, so I won't hit him. And that's smart right there, bro. I be trying to do that sometimes on the court, bro. Like, be a good homie with somebody. Don't play that defense too tight, bro. Like, just chill, cuz.
But. Like, you have to be a special breed to be like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is not just something that's just natural. I mean, a lot of it is natural. Let me rephrase that. A lot of that's natural, right? But a lot of that is work. Like, he puts in so much work that he's that confident that if a play goes bad, smile, go out, 1st down. Right?
Yeah,
like it's like that sort of stuff is cheat code. That's the sort of stuff you talk about. Enjoy while you have it, because there's only a select few of people in the league that have that. And, this game is kind of starting to give me last year's Cincinnati Bengal vibes.
It's very similar to that. And y'all went out there in a shootout and handled business. Even though your defense didn't play the best game and y'all allowed Joe Burrow to put up over 30 points, still came away with the dub. And this could be a game like that. This is definitely going to be a NFC playoff preview, in my opinion. And you're looking at 2 quarterbacks that seem to be here to stay in a major matchup here. One of, I guess this is Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love's first time playing each other, or is this the second time?
No, first time.
First time playing each other. So, yeah, definitely going to be a good matchup.
Right. You
ready for this roadmap to how we going to get to this victory for your Washington Commanders?
I'm ready. Let's buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, let's get to it. Yeah, even though I hate this celebration, let's get to it.
Hold on.
Yeah, you get on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get strategic. Just get out the lane.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Roadmap to Victory, officially sponsored by Waze, where the beard plugs in the coordinates for the Washington Commanders to get to victory. Up first, stop number 1, 100% in the red zone. You cannot not score. The Green Bay Packers held the Detroit Lions last week to 1 of 4 in the red zone. I'm going to need the Washington Commanders to be 100% in the red zone this week. And RTDB, I asked for $150 last week. You gave me over 200. I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to ask for $160. Okay, $160 against the number one after week 1 rush defense in the National Football League. Listen, all them yellow flags, can't have it, won't have it. You will not win with it. I'm going to need no more than 5 penalties in this game, okay? So we're cutting it even more than 50%. Also, Green Bay Packers, possibly without 2 of their best offensive linemen. If you want to make a statement on national TV about how good your defense has improved, I'm going to need you to go out there and sack Jordan Love, who was only sacked 14 times all last year, 4 times tonight. I want 4 sacks of Jordan Love tonight.
I like it.
Pause. Also, I'm going to need the Washington Commanders to win third down on both sides of the ball. You better have a better percentage on third down offensively than the Green Bay Packers and a better third down defense percentage than the Green Bay Packers. And last, but certainly not least, Josh Jacobs. I'm going to need you to hold him to under 65 yards rushing in this game.
I was waiting for and ladies and gentlemen, that is the roadmap to victory for your Washington Commanders.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the roadmap to victory for your Washington Commanders. Brought to you by Authentic in the Beard and our unofficially official sponsor, Wazay. Gets you to where you need to go.
I like that. I like you making up slogans for Wazay. I love get you to where you need to go. I love it. All right, bro. It's time. Score.
It's time.
I'm letting you go first on this one because I'm still a little undecided. I know you like to have your scores ready. While me up here, I'm doing, my best impersonation of B Rabbit, freestyling these scores.
You want to know what's funny? I write my scores down before I do anything else.
That's crazy.
My scores first and then notes.
I'm like, convince me why I need to pick that score.
All right, listen. Until I've been proven otherwise. Oh, breaking news. Authentic's going to love this. Giants claimed Xavier Gibson off of waivers.
Yo, I was going to say that on the show yesterday, that would be a great move. I can't believe they cut him after just one mistake. They're like, man, Aaron Glenn not having it. I like that. So this the thing about that, though. Does that mean that maybe Gunnar Olszewski might be headed back to the practice squad or something? Because Xavier Gibson is known as a special teams guy, return guy, and a wide receiver that can get it done as well. Love that. That's a great one. Great
move. Mm-hmm. Listen, until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to Washington all the time, right? Because, it makes sense to me. Like, this is a new generation of Washington, right? And if you want to be considered Super Bowl contender, which I believe we are, then you win games like this on the road in prime time on a short week. That's what champions do, okay? So I'm going to take Washington Commanders 27, Green Bay Packers 23.
I like it. I do think that this could possibly be a more high-scoring game. You're already up 1 game on me with picking the Washington Commanders in week 1 over my New York Giants, so I need a little bit of a lane here to try to catch back up. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers here, and I think it'll be high-scoring. Just like you said, kind of like that Cincinnati Bengals game. I'm going to go 33 for the Green Bay Packers, 33-29 in favor of the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, so we got 2 official legs for the Authentic in the Beard parlay. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. I will post the full parlay for the Thursday night game. We did hit last week on, what was that, 6-legger, I think. Mm-hmm. I was literally texting Authentic, check it off, because we were on a roll. But I think we could take the Commanders plus some points. I think we could take them maybe plus 6.5. So if they lose, they get a little bit of wiggle room. But if they win, we're in the clear there. I think we both like Deebo Samuel over 59.5 total scrimmage yards. So that's two right there. And we'll come up with a couple others after the show ends, and we'll post that for you guys and gals on Twitter.
Absolutely. Keep your eyes peeled on Twitter for that information. Beard knocking out those graphics, supporting the graphics department. Love what I'm seeing there. We got just one more game I want to talk about here real quickly is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs for the Super Bowl rematch. This is going to be a very interesting game here as well. And kickoff is Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. I got the Eagles favored by 1, the over-under 45.5. This is just the third time in Patrick Mahomes' entire career that he's played as a home underdog in the regular season. So that goes to show you the kind of success that the Philadelphia Eagles have had. Last week, the Eagles beat the Cowboys 24-20. The Chiefs lost to the Los Angeles Chargers 27-21. But last meeting, the Eagles did beat the Chiefs 40-22 in the Super Bowl. Impressive victory for Jalen Hurts and that entire Eagles offense. Eagles have won 7 straight games dating back to last season. They're also on a bit of a roll like the Washington Commanders. And the Eagles also have won 15 straight games that are started and finished with Jalen Hurts under center. They've also won the last 2 matchups against the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be a revenge game for Andy Reid. Chiefs have not started 0-2 since Andy Reid's first season with the Kansas City Chiefs. That might be reason to pick the Chiefs in this matchup this weekend. You can expect tight end Dallas Goedert to possibly miss this game, along with running back Will Shipley, who's dealing with an oblique injury. They both missed practice this week. The Eagles also just traded for former Jaguars running back Tank Bigsby. That's definitely the Beard's guy. They traded for him earlier this week. You know, I thought last week was a bit of a ugly performance from both of these teams, to be honest. The Eagles won despite really having no production from A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Dallas Goedert had a pretty good game, so I think missing him will hurt if he's not actually in the lineup. The Chiefs lost by just 1 score in a game where really everything around Patrick Mahomes was not looking good. Lost some wide receivers there to injury, but Mahomes looked pretty decent, 24-39, 258 and a tutty, and no interceptions. This is a hard game to pick because both of these teams are kind of stumbling into this week 2 matchup. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think they have the Kansas City Chiefs number, but it wouldn't surprise me to see the Kansas City Chiefs win. I'm going to say the Eagles win this one similarly to how they won their week 1 matchup. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles 27-20 over the Kansas City Chiefs here on this weekend. I see it. I can see it. 27-20. 20. I swear we didn't talk about this, y'all. I swear to God we didn't talk about this.
Listen, I don't want to overreact to week 1, but I'm a little bit worried about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily in the sense like they're not going to make the playoffs, right? And they're going to be a Super Bowl contending team as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? That's the fact. There's but you can't argue that. They're automatically, with those 2 guys, they're automatically considered a contender. And maybe it's not necessarily that they are regressing, but I think the rest of the league is starting to catch up with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And the Kansas City Chiefs haven't gotten that much better to where the gap is still wide.
Injuries are so important too. You know, the injuries and the suspensions and just not
Rashee
having
Rice
those
and
weapons
Xavier
at his
Worthy
disposal.
both out?
Yeah, those are his 2 best weapons there. So now you kind of relying on OGs with Juju Smith-Schuster and just like, you know, a mixed bag
Thornton.
Oh my God, Tyquan Thornton. I mean, you know, you just throwing people out there at this point. Kelsey needs a big game. You know, this is when you need to see Kelsey support the damn quarterback when he's missing his 2 best weapons out there.
And this other thing too is, what's up with Pacheco? Like, why can't we get a Pacheco game?
What was the injury again? It was like a leg break or something?
Yeah.
I think that got something to do with it.
He was out there. You know, Kareem Hunt looked like the better back.
Last year, Kareem Hunt had some success in those last 7 games, too. You know, it didn't carry over into the 2025 season, but Kareem Hunt is capable as well, and he didn't have a good game this past week either.
So, for me, it's just maybe it's just a thing where, you know, Kansas City Chiefs are that type of team where – and that's why they're always a contender when they play their best ball when it matters most towards the end of the year, you know?
Truth,
and so
truth.
that's kind of where I'm going to go with it. And it's crazy to think that I'm picking the Chiefs to go 0-2, right? But this is a coin flip game. It could go either way, but I mean, you saw my score. I'm right there with you. Eagles 27, Chiefs 20.
Yeah, and maybe a lot of the offseason approach for the Kansas City Chiefs, you know, drafting a left tackle and more moves and just the approach really, right, has a lot to do with that game in the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's all about getting back and not allowing the front 4 to dominate them the way that it did in the Super Bowl, getting all that pressure on Patrick Mahomes without having to blitz. So we both got 27-20. Man, that's as authentic and the beard as it can possibly get, bro. That's absolutely crazy right there. So we got this matchup tonight, man. Thursday Night Football, Washington Commanders taking on the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be an interesting one. Beard, we got to tap in on our fantasy stuff here and get everything ironed out and figure out this defense and whatnot. But big shout out to the gang. We got a couple of super chats we got to get to here before we get up out of here. Let me see. I thought I saw. Okay, we did get another one from Prime Mo. Yeah, we got another one from Primo here about the Tyrone Tracy
Shout
vibes.
out to my cousin, mi primo, with the $4.99 super chat. Says, my point was, as long as the Giants don't fix this offensive line, we will run into the same issues. Everyone counted Saquon out when he clearly wasn't the issue.
Everyone but Authentic in the Beard.
Yeah, not us.
Because when we let Saquon Barkley go in the middle of paying Daniel Jones all that money, I'm like, wait a minute. Why are we like semi-acting like it's a rebuild and semi-acting like we're trying to compete? If the Giants were truly trying to compete, and you don't pay a quarterback $40 million a year if you're not trying to compete, they should have exhausted the resources in keeping the weapons around Daniel Jones. And that goes on the defensive side of the ball as well with Xavier McKinney. All of that shit was just all ass backwards, to be honest. You got to fix the offensive line, but it's not like Joe Shane has not gone out there and actually tried to address it. You know, like you brought in 4 veterans on this offensive line for Daniel Jones. I know that people are overreacting to the week 1 performance from the offensive line. I still do not think that this offensive line is as bad of a unit as most of the New York Giants fans believe it is. I think that if you can, get a balance with the attack, it'll help each side of the ball as far as passing the ball and running the ball. But when you have no running game, no blocking up front, no weapons on the outside, it's going to look a bit ugly. But I think it all starts with the running game, and it also starts with the quarterback going out there and making the right decisions for the Giants as well.
Yeah, and you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for your offensive line to be good when your best offensive lineman isn't playing.
Yeah, and I think, we also got to point the finger at the organization here because we've seen some of these same Beard, we literally saw GVR and Jermaine Illuminor on the Raiders in the exact same fucking positions and succeed. So why is it now that the right side of the offensive line for the New York Giants is complete dog shit when we literally saw them with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, and whoever else was fucking over there actually have some success? So for me, and then you're looking at John Runyon Jr. making $10 million a year. I think the weakest point on the New York Giants offensive line is JMS, and that's the fault of Joe Shane for not, prioritizing the proper players from a strength perspective in the draft. I mean, everybody knew that JMS did have strength issues coming out of Minnesota. And we ended up spending a second-round pick on that guy, and it's been a disaster.
Yeah, and big shout-out to my guy, your guy, everybody's guy. Shout-out Bobby Johnson.
Yeah, Bobby Johnson, he clearly wasn't the fucking problem, right? When I said it last year, right, people were like, oh, no, Jaden Daniel, blah, blah, blah. Now you got some talent over there, right? And they actually look like a functioning unit. So I agree with Prime Mo here. I mean, you got to fix the offensive line, right? But, y'all not tired of hearing that shit? Dog, we put $50 million into that offensive line just 2 off seasons ago.
That's a lot of money.
I don't know what's going on here. Are we bringing in the wrong players? Like I said, we just saw these guys succeed. They were a top 10 offensive line in Las Vegas with the Raiders. You bring them over here, you swap out a black jersey for a blue jersey, and all of a sudden these guys are dog shit. I don't get it, bro. But shout out Prime Mo for helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard.
Big shout out to Door Gunner with the $2 super chat. Says Neighbors joins as BFF in DC in 3 years.
Get down.
Can't wait. Oh, listen,
Stop this, Door Gunner. He been hitting me up on Twitter every fucking hour telling me this shit right here, dog. Stop this, Door Gunner. Stop this, or I'm going to pull up with the Gatling gun to your front door like, no fucking Malik Neighbors for none of y'all. All right. Shout out my dog, Door Gunner, man.
Big shout out, Chris Peace. Nicest guy in the world. With a 999 says super chat says 999 super chat 999.
Shout out my dog Chris Peace, man. We appreciate y'all helping us elevate the channel, man, and raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard. Big salute to y'all. All right, Beard, we're here. It just feels like this week flew by. We're talking 2 giant overreactions, a new preview here, Washington Commanders, Thursday night. Can we start a season any better? We got the week 1 matchup between our 2 teams, and then following that, you get a short week, Washington Commanders traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. I'm looking forward to this matchup, man. Any last words for the fam base over here on Authentic and the Beard?
No, big shout out to everybody who's watching us across all the different platforms. We appreciate all the love and all support. Once again, we would not be able to do this if it was not for you guys. 1 million views on this channel is kind of crazy to think about, but it just goes to show you like how much of a community we've built here, and we appreciate all of the love and support. Don't forget to follow us both on Twitter at Authentic, at Tim Walk on Water 2. You will be seeing that same game parlay from us go up pretty shortly after we finish up here. And enjoy the game, man. Enjoy the game. Enjoy Sunday. You know, like Sunday's going to be an interesting day for me. I might go hit the road, go up to Baltimore and take care of some business and watch some games up there while my Washington Commanders are sitting at home on Sunday 2-0. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, bring out the coach's jacket and whatnot and just kind of chill out, man. If you get that victory, that's going to be a real nice Sunday for y'all. But y'all know what it is, man. We definitely appreciate all you guys helping us raise the bar today. Salute to the fan base, man. We definitely, you know, as the Beard said, we couldn't do this without y'all, man. And it's great to have this kind of a community around what we're doing over here. And the community is still growing. Literally in real time. It's a beautiful thing. But y'all know how we end every show over here on Authentic and the Beard. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT and New York legend Combat Jack. And that is a wrap. Best of luck to all y'all teams this week. But for real, it's really just go Giants and fuck the rest of y'all. We'll catch y'all on the flip side, man. Y'all be easy. Enjoy y'all football weekend. Peace.